Buying a home in Canada in 2024 is going to be an interesting experience, especially if it's your first time buying a house. You're going to be dealing with an economic environment that most Canadians, when they bought their first home, didn't have to deal with. Lucky you. Now, I don't want to be dramatic, but I believe that everything happens for a reason, including you stumbling across this video. I also believe that when you meet someone, that person either exists to teach you something to do or teaches you exactly what not to do. So I hope that you're able to learn something from this video so that you don't end up making a completely avoidable mistake and end up being the person in someone else's life that teaches them what not to do. Okay, enough of that, let's get into it. Number one, know your market. This is a way more important point than most people could ever realize. Even if you're a new immigrant and you've just finished researching ad nauseum the city that you're looking to move to, or you're a natural-born Canadian and you've lived in that city your whole entire life, you still don't know what a good deal looks like. For instance, just to use the GTA as an extreme example, the GTA went from being one of the hottest markets in all of the Canadian economy to being in a situation where 70% of the GTA is now currently in underbidding territory, meaning that the final sale price is now going for under what the property is currently listed for. And yet there are markets in the GTA that are still in overbidding territory, like Ajax, Morningside Heights, Westbrook, and Brown Ridge, once again, just as an example. So how can you know your market? Well, there's a few things that you can do. For starters, find a realtor that you can trust and get yourself on their automated email list. Now, you're going to have to fill out a few parameters like how many bedrooms and how many bathrooms, what kind of neighborhoods you're interested in, and some kind of price range. But once that's all set up, the realtor system is going to start sending you emails every single week with properties that meet your criteria. And this is awesome because what it allows you to do is, from the comfort of your home, thumb through all of these different properties and get a real good general sense of what different properties go for in different neighborhoods. So that way, when you finally have the opportunity to go out and see these properties for yourself, when you're finally ready to pull the trigger, you have a better idea of what a good deal looks like. More importantly, what a bad deal looks like. You can also drive to and go visit the neighborhoods you're interested in. Go for a walk around the neighborhood. Talk to some of the neighbors while you're on that walk. Pull up the crime reports that are usually available online from the local police. There are many ways that you can get to know the neighborhood before committing to one and potentially save yourself from some buyer's remorse. Number two, surround yourself with a good team. And a good team usually includes a real estate agent, a mortgage broker, and a real estate lawyer. Now, when it comes to finding a good real estate agent, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this publicly, but that profession, like most professions, follow the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the business is being done by 20% of the realtors, meaning that the odds of finding a good realtor are about 1 in 5. I believe that there are more bad ones than good ones out there. So don't just walk into an open house and start working with whatever realtor you just happen to come across. Real estate is a lot like the Hunger Games, and unfortunately, like I just mentioned, the odds aren't ever in your favor.
Come on, dear.
Instead, if I were you, I would get a referral from someone who is either vetted or can vouch for that real estate professional. That way you know that you're dealing with an expert that is both capable and competent. And if you need or want a referral from me, I'll put a link to a form in the description below that you can fill out, and I'd be happy to match you with someone that I personally would use if I was purchasing in your market. Now, when it comes to arranging the mortgage financing for your purchase, talking to your bank isn't necessarily a bad thing. Just know that the mortgage agent that you're dealing with at your bank can only ever represent the mortgages at your bank, meaning the rates and products are limited to what they can offer and only what they can offer. For this reason, it's a really good idea to talk to a mortgage broker that could potentially explore hundreds of other options and end up with a far more competitive mortgage product as a result. And believe it or not, using a mortgage broker's services is 99% of the time free, so you really have nothing to lose. And if you're looking for a referral for that, I happen to know a guy. Just to be clear, I'm the guy. Last but certainly not least, you're going to want to make sure that you have a good real estate lawyer. And I've seen firsthand what happens to people when they don't have a good one. The good news, though, is that if you've built your team correctly and you have a good real estate agent and you have a good mortgage broker, between the two of them, one of them is going to have a good recommendation for a lawyer that they've used likely many, many times before and can trust. Number three, tricks for saving for your down payment. The FHSA, the First Home Savings Account, is brand new in Canada as of 2023 and allows you to save for your down payment up to $8,000 every single year, tax-free. Most of the financial institutions in Canada are now set up properly for this and have the ability to create this account for you. So if you're quick enough and it's still 2023, you have the ability to potentially get your $8,000 contribution limit completed before 2023 ends, allowing you to contribute another $8,000 in 2024. Now, I have a whole video that talks about the first home savings account, so I'm not going to repeat that here. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link to that video in the description below. I'm also going to include other videos that I've recorded throughout the years that I think you also have additional benefit for watching, so make sure you pay attention for those as well. And if you don't want to miss out on future videos, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification so that you're alerted when new videos come out. Now, beyond your new first home savings account, you can also utilize contributions that you've made to your RRSP using the RRSP Home Buyers Plan. Essentially, the RRSP HPB allows you to use up to $35,000 of your contributions for the purposes of buying a house, all tax-free. But unlike the FHSA, anything that you withdraw for the purposes of buying a home does have to be recontributed back over the next 15 years. It's also important to know that sometimes employers set up group RRSPs, and that you might be eligible and able to use their deferred profit sharing plan as part of your down payment as well. Another thing that you could look into, although these are less prevalent than they used to be, are down payment grants. And these down payment grants usually will depend on which province you're in and potentially other factors like your heritage. For example, if you're buying in Saskatchewan and you happen to be Métis, you may be eligible for the Saskatchewan Métis First-Time Home Buyers Grant. Arguably one of the best and most well thought out grants I have ever seen in all of Canada, and I wish it applied to more people. Number 4, you need to know your costs. A lot of people, when they're buying their first home, focus almost exclusively on the cost to make the home theirs, like the appraisal, the inspection, the closing costs, lawyer fees, title transfer fees, and so on. And that's a good thing. Understanding those costs is an important thing to do, and hopefully if you've built yourself the right team, they'll be able to walk you through exactly what those costs will be for the province that you're buying in. But why, for the purposes of this video, I'm focusing more on what happens after you own the property, is right now we are dealing with an economic shift, and that economic shift brings with it some uncertainties. For instance, let's look at repairs and maintenance. The cost of material, the cost of supplies, the cost of labor have gone up dramatically in the last couple years thanks to inflation, which really means two things. The first is that thanks to inflation, there are a lot of homeowners that have chosen to defer maintenance simply due to the cost. And as a result, the home that you're buying, you may be stepping into a long list of repairs that need to be done. So secondly, now that you own a home and the cost of those repairs and maintenance fall on you, understanding what kind of projects that you're going to need to do in the next few years is even more important than it used to be. Better yet, if you can properly identify which projects need to be done, and there's certain ones that have more immediacy, there's a chance that if you budget them properly, you can build them into your mortgage up front. It's called a purchase plus improvement mortgage that essentially allows you to build in future renovations into the cost of your home, as long as those renovations are done within the first 120 days of you owning the property. Now, there are limitations to that type of mortgage, but if you're interested in learning more, I've included a video for that one as well in the description below. It's at this point that some people might say, but Conrad, my realtor wants me to do an unconditional offer. And you will never hear me recommend that you go into an offer with no conditions. Houses in Canada are sold as is, meaning that once you own the property, the house is yours, but so are all the problems that come with it. Meaning that once you own the home, you can't go back and renegotiate with the seller for the $300,000 foundation repair that you would have caught had you done the inspection, or the $50,000 pest removal, because bats are a protected species and you can't just kill them all off.
No refunds.
It's even more important to do your due diligence when you're buying a condo, and you better be getting those condo and strata documents professionally reviewed. You know, we talked about the rising cost of repairs and maintenance, and that's really having an impact right now on condos. Some condo fees are still ultra low compared to other condos that have now priced in those increased repairs and maintenance costs because they don't have the reserve fund to cover it. In other words, if the condo board for the condo that you're buying hasn't properly reassessed the reserve fund to account for today's current costs, you might be buying into a condo that has cash calls or deceptively low condo fees that are about to see a significant spike. Number 5, think long-term and be realistic. The best way to think about home prices is like a yo-yo on an escalator. There are going to be ups and downs, but the general trend is going to be up. In all my years of doing real estate, I've seen very few people time the market properly, and in my honest opinion, they were probably more lucky than right. So don't try to time the market. Whatever you're planning on buying, anticipate to live there for 5 to 10 years. That way it doesn't matter what happens to home prices in the meantime, you're likely going to end up on the positive side in the long-term trend. I can tell you countless stories of young couples that have tried to play the short game with real estate, buying a house and trying to flip it just like they do on TV, only for the costs to go way above budget and their time frame to go years past how long they thought the project would take them. 2024 is likely going to be a very tough time for a lot of people, but if you're thinking long-term and you know your costs, you know your market, and you have the right team behind you, you should do just fine.
I know you clumsy as fuck, for real.